Okay. Show me.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dutch RC channel for part 2 in our GEPRC AX5 Monster Quadcopter build series. Now, we've had a look at the frame itself. In this video I'll be adding motors and ESCs. Now, in my previous build series I mainly concentrated on the parts added. So I do a bench test of motors and maybe technical specs of a flight controller and how to connect things. In this series I'll try and explain more about how to install things. So this series will be more for people that aren't familiar with building quads. So again, I'll be trying to show you my procedure of adding things to this quadcopter. So let's first have a quick look at what I'll be adding in this video. I've got 5 motors, and yes, that's basically what I always do when building a quadcopter. I order up 5 motors and 5 ESCs so that I have a spare if well, if I crash badly and one set gets damaged. In that way I don't have to wait a couple of weeks for them to arrive. So in this box over here is my 5th motor. Now let's have a quick look at these motors. These are DYS motors. Here, DYS motors. The DYS Storm. These are pretty new motors. And they are 2550 kV motors. The size of them is 22 millimeters in width, and they are 0.77 millimeters in height. So these are beefy motors, and that's an understatement. Now, one of the reasons for me not doing a bench test is that well, these DYS motors basically also always outperform their specifications. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure they'll perform very well. They have a hollow shaft, as you can see. The casing is nicely purple anodized, and these do have a C-clip at the bottom. The previous motors I've reviewed from DYS had a screw locking the shaft to the base of the motor. These have a C-clip. To be honest, I'm more of a fan of a screw fixing the shaft in place, but well, it is what it is. It does not seem to touch the bearing though, so that is a good thing. Okay, so that's the motors. Let's see what my ESCs look like. I've got 5 of these DYS XSD30 amp version 2s. Stock they come with BL Heli S, and they are D-shot ready. So yes, very nice, and they are very small, as you can probably tell. They do come with this protective case. I'm not sure if I'll be using those, probably not. And they each come with 2 of these shrink tube things, in case you have to remove the one that's already on there. And what you can do is, after soldering on the motor wires, putting it on to shield the connector at the bottom, so it can't touch your frame. And that is something I'll probably do. That's a good idea. So, very nice that they include 2 of those. Okay, what we'll be doing next is installing the motors. Okay, pretty standard fare, I'd say. You screw down the motor with 4 screws. It has 4 screw holes at the bottom, as you can see. And most frames will also have 4 screw holes over here at the end of the arm. And you screw down the motor so that your motor wires extend into the frame. And over here we'll install our ESCs. That's the case in most frames. In some frames, however, you'll mount your motor the other way around, with the motor wires pointing at the outer edge of the arm. Actually, let me show that to you. Here is the arm of a Sky Hero OB1, and in this case you'd install the motors like so, run the motor wires underneath the arm and install your ESC at the bottom of the arm. Yeah, that's a little less unconventional. It does work, however, and yes, I think most people will say, but well, you will have less airflow over your ESC and less cooling. Well, there will be a lot of turbulence at the bottom of the arm as well, so this would work pretty well as well. Okay, however, like I mentioned, in this AX5 build we're installing the motors in a conventional way. So let me go and do that, and then I'll come back to you. And there we go, our frame has some motors, and yes, I think you can imagine that I really wanted black motors for my red schemed quadcopter, but to be honest, it kinda looks good to me in a funny way, red with purple, huh. Well, okay, but that's maybe just me. Okay, one more thing about these motors. They come with two full sets of screws, four 5mm screws and four 7mm screws, but also a spare for both, so 5 of both. That's nice. And these motors also come with two prop nuts. So you get, well, with a quadcopter like this you have 4 spare prop nuts. That's very nice. And they come with a metal prop wrench, like so. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, I have not added a vibration dampening. I haven't soft mounted my motors. I do have a set of soft mounts over here, but what I usually do is first try the quadcopter without them and see if I need those, right? So if I have too much vibration in the flight controller, I might add these rubber silicone motor pad things. Everything, by the way, for this build is linked in the description down below if you're interested. So also these vibration isolators. Okay, so with that we're gonna add ESCs. And what I usually do is stick them on the frame with double-sided tape. And I don't mean that white stuff, but I mean industrial double-sided tape. And I'll stick them like here, for instance. But for that we'll first move to my soldering desk, and I'll show you how I do this. Okay, so we've got ourselves a quad with motors, 4 ESCs, and the first thing we want to do is tin up the connectors that will that the motor wires will connect to. So let's go and do that. Make sure you have comfortable access to everything. And you basically want to do this as quickly as possible, as to not to heat up the electronics too much. There. There we go. One done. Okay, job done. Now, the next thing I'll do is determine where on my quadcopter I want to mount my ESCs. And that would depend a little on your quadcopter's layout. In general, I like to place my ESCs as close to the center of the quadcopter, and I'm gonna have a look if that makes sense. If I don't run into problems getting the wires in there, and it doesn't look so. Okay, I've already put some double-sided sticky tape on my ESCs. Okay, this looks like a proper mess at the moment, obviously. So, obviously the motor wires are far too long at this moment. Far too long. Pretty nice actually that they do come with long wires in case you need that, but we don't. So we'll clip those off to length. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll use exactly the length I need and no more. So let's clip those off. Alright, done. And what we need to do next is strip the ends of these wires so we can solder them up to the ESCs, obviously. So let's go and do that. And obviously you only need to strip off a very small piece of those wires. And with that done, we need to pre-tin the ends of these three wires that protrude out of the motor. So let's go and do that. Obviously you need to do this for all four motors. Alright, jump cut. So, I've now soldered up the motor wires to the ESCs. Pretty straightforward, obviously. Now, in the past, you'd want to have the left front and the right rear motor wires to run straight across. So, no two wires were swapped or twisted. You did this to make sure that this left front motor and the right rear motor spun the right way around. And the left rear and the right front motor, you would have two wires swapped out. And again, that's to make this motor run counterclockwise and this one counterclockwise. That's not really needed anymore, or not at all really. With most ESCs you can adjust the motor rotation direction in the BL Heli suit. So at this moment obviously we can't do that because they aren't connected to a flight controller yet, and they don't they aren't powered. I'll have a separate video after I've installed all electronics on the software wrap up, so to speak. So BL Heli firmware setup, the calibration of the ESCs, and your Betaflight setup. I'll have that in a separate video, so that'll be coming up pretty soon as well. For now, yeah, the next video will be the installment of a power distribution board and our flight controller, and that'll be coming up in the next few days, I think. So be on the lookout for those, and for now I want to thank you for watching. If you have any questions, hit me up a comment down below. That's what the comment section is for. And thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.